Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and this is me talking about the February graphic novels that I've read. If you've watched my TBR for February, you'll know that during February my sort of book lust list, which I'm doing one of every month, is this month going to be graphic novels because I had quite a few that I wanted to read. And what I'm trying to do is read sort of one every night, every other night when I sort of feel like it, alongside my other books. And so now I have actually completed two. The first one was this one, which is Almost American Girl by Robin Harr. This is a new release, and I picked this up because I liked the idea of the premise and I really enjoyed the look of the art style as well. I'm really drawn to graphic memoir. I think that is definitely my jam when it comes to graphic novels. I'm really getting a taste for them, and I really enjoyed this. It's Robin's experience of moving from Korea with her mother, thinking she was going on a summer holiday to Alabama in her teens. They never ended up going back. Her mother married someone over there, and it was about her having to assimilate into American life. She didn't speak any English, and so she had a massive language barrier in terms of communication at school and communication with others. There was step siblings and new families and all sorts to go sort of contend with, and it had always been her and her mother. She had just lived with her mother from a very young age. There was quite a stigma attached to that in terms of in Korea, that wasn't seen as the done thing, and so there was often abuse hurled and things said behind both her and her mother's back. And it's just about her life in America, what happens to her, and how she eventually finds her place through various different things, finding people to connect with and finding comics and drawing and like-minded people that also enjoy that. And I just thought it was really good, really lovely drawn, very well written, and really managed to evoke emotion when you read it, which I think is really good. And it really did manage to sort of show and highlight to someone like myself who has never had a language barrier, you know, at work or at school, and never tried to live somewhere where nobody speaks your language, apart from sort of going places on holiday. But then, you know, even then people speak English, whereas, you know, Americans and English people don't often speak Korean. And so just how tricky and difficult that must be. And with no help and no ESL, you know, language classes, being the only Korean person in the whole school, this sort of small little town in Alabama, where there isn't many sort of other students with other ethnicities. And I just thought it was a really good book, and so I gave this one 4 stars. I then have just finished volume 2 of Spaceboy, which is by Stephen McCrannies, and I read the first one and really enjoyed it. It's about a family that have gone through deep space in sort of cryogenic sleep for a number of years, maybe 30 years, to come back to Earth. They'd lived on this sort of mining colony in space, and so it's the future on Earth. But they're obviously the same age they were when they left. So our main character Amy is sort of in her teenage years and she's at school. The artwork in this is quite basic, and there isn't a load of text. It's not got, you know, lots going on, but there is this sort of mystery unfolding with this boy that she has seen at school. Amy can sort of taste people's flavours, I suppose, sort of like a synesthesia type thing, but this particular boy she can't get a read on, and she's finding him mysterious and interesting. So while she's also, I suppose similarly to Robin Harr, navigating this strange and alien place that she's never lived and only knows about from sort of TV, or, you know, learning about when she was in space, she's navigating that and working her way, you know, through school. But also there's this mystery with this boy that she is intrigued with. So I'm enjoying it. This one I didn't feel had quite as much pull as the first one, so I think it's probably going to be a 3-star. But I have got the next one, the third one, which I'm going to pick up next. So maybe tomorrow I'll pick that one up and see if that sort of leads us a bit more into the story and gets a bit more meat to the bones, I suppose. because this one at the moment, it wouldn't be one necessarily that I would rush out to pick up, but I'm just lucky that I have the other one. My daughter got me these for my birthday, so I will pick up the other one and see if it sort of progresses a bit more. So far so good on the old graphic novels, and I'm really looking forward to some of the other ones and showing you a bit more of them, because they're a bit more innovative in their the way that they're read and the way that they sort of work. So keep watching and I'll come back to you when I've read the next one. Okay, so I've just finished reading another graphic novel. I'm checking in straight away, and that is This Was Our Pact by Ryan Andrews. Now, I really enjoyed the look of this book. I enjoyed the premise, the idea of it, but oh my god, I don't get it. I don't get it. So ultimately, this book is about a group of children, and every year their village sets off lanterns down a river, and the boys chase after the lanterns on their bike until they get to the place where they all turn back. And this year they've made a pact that they won't look back and that they won't stop until they find where the lanterns go. That sounded so interesting to me. And then we move further, and all the boys have turned back bar two, the social misfit and one of the other boys. And then we start to get more fantastical. There's a bear, flying fish, people that live up in an above sort of boulder level, witches, strange creatures, and a really unusual ending that really left me wondering what the whole thing was about. Such a shame, because the artwork itself was brilliant, and had it wrapped up maybe differently and had these creatures and fantastical elements been a metaphor for something larger, or been creepy, or there had been something more tangible to hold on to at the end, perhaps I would have liked it more. So personally, I can't recommend this. I gave it 2 stars, and that was really for the artwork. I was really disappointed because I thought that this had a really sort of Stranger Things vibes, plus this sort of idea of this lantern and the story behind that. I just felt there could have been a better journey, and perhaps even with the fantastical elements, there could have been a bigger message that was being pushed across. And if there was, then either I was too stupid to see it, or it wasn't focused on or developed enough to make it clear to the reader. So anyway, unfortunately, this was a 2 stars for me. Right, so that's 4 graphic novels so far. I've got a few more that I want to read, and they're both very different to what I normally read. So hopefully one of those will be a good one, because so far they've been fairly average. We've had one good one. Yeah, we'll see. I'll come back to you when I've got more. Okay, so I've just finished another graphic novel, if I can hold it up whilst holding this as well, and that is The Tea Dragon Festival by Katie O'Neill. I read the other Tea Dragon book, The Tea Dragon Society, a while back, and this one is her most recent release, and it's a companion novel to the story. It's a beautifully designed graphic novel, and I just think it's calm and beautifully drawn, and it's such a gentle book, and I just really love the themes and this sort of exploration of friendship and diversity and acceptance, all amongst this sort of fantasy with tea dragons and real dragons. Yeah, it's just a lovely, joyful book to read. So in this one, we're following Rin, and she's grown up in this village her whole life. And one day, she comes across a dragon, and in her village she collects all of the ingredients and forages for wild things to make food, and she introduces the dragon to their village and learns his story and about him, and the whole village looks after lots of tea dragons, and so we learn a little bit more about them as well. It's got
obviously the beautiful artwork that we're used to seeing from Katie O'Neill. These end papers are just absolutely stunning, and it's just such a beautiful book to have on your shelf. So I ended up really enjoying this like the last one, and like the last one I gave it a really strong 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely one that I would recommend, and it's one that will definitely be finding a place on my shelf. So I've read quite a few books now, a few graphic novels, and I will be hopefully reading a few more before the end of this. So I hope you're enjoying seeing the ones that I've been reading and finding out my ratings, and I've got some more to go and read now, so I will come back to you when I have read some more. Okay, so I've just finished another one. It's a day later, and I've just finished Making Friends by Kristen Gudsnook, who is the creator of Hench Girl, which is a comic I read and I wasn't as keen on, but I really loved this. I went into it actually thinking it was going to be a contemporary sort of middle grade story about making friends at middle school. And actually it's not. It's a completely made up story, and it's so much fun. It's about a young girl. She's starting middle school. A lot of her friends, well, all her friends in fact, are in a sort of different cluster to her. We don't have them over here, but they're in sort of a different lunchtime and sort of a different group of sort of lesson times and things. So she's all alone, she's trying to make new friends, and she's really struggling, and then her aunt, or great aunt or something like that, dies, and she gets this notebook from her aunt's things, and she draws this picture of this character from an anime that she absolutely loves, and all of a sudden it comes to life. And so this starts this sort of magic paintbrush idea that anything she draws in this book can come to life, and so she starts to try and make herself friends and work out a way to make friends and become popular, and along the way she learns things about herself. She learns what it is to be a friend, and it's just really lovely and sweet. The artwork is really nice. It's got exactly the sort of artwork that I really enjoy, with bold lines and punchy colours, and it was just a real joy to read, and yeah, I just thought it was full of fun and good illustrations and enough sort of meat to the story. So I've ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I would definitely recommend it. It's definitely one that will be going on my shelf for Matilda when she gets older. It was just a really fun and beautiful read. Okay, so I've completed another graphic novel, and this one is Stargazing by Jen Wang. You might recognise that name. She wrote The Prince and the Dressmaker and In Real Life, and I just loved this. I thought it was such a lovely story. It's very loosely based on Jen's real life, although in this main character doesn't suffer from what Jen had. It's actually the sort of secondary character in this. I don't want to say what it is because it kind of spoils the whole story, so I don't want to spoil that for you, but it's basically about a young girl, and she goes to church, she has a nice group of friends, she's very settled, her family are really quite strict and they push her to do sort of well at everything, and she's committed to sort of getting straight A's and that sort of thing. And then she meets this little girl called Moon, and Moon ends up moving in with their family, well, not with their family, but into their family's sort of spare unit that had been their grandfather's, with her mum. And it's about, they're slightly different, and Moon is slightly different. His mother and him have different ways of doing things and have a different sort of style and feel to their family, and it's about how Christine starts to sort of want some of these things and starts to change and starts to be touched by Moon and Moon's character and family, and forms a friendship ultimately. And it's a lovely story. It's got beautiful artwork in here. I just love Jen's drawing style. Her illustrations are exactly what I like
in graphic novels, and I ended up giving this one a strong 4 stars. It's really lovely. It's definitely one to keep and have on your shelf, and I shall be keeping it. And yeah, so I definitely recommend this one, and I gave it 4 stars. Hi guys, so I've just read today's graphic novel, and this time I picked this one, which is Spill Zone Volume 1 by Alex Puvaland and Scott Westerfeld. And I was expecting this one to be different and a bit strange, and the sort of premise behind it is you've got this spill zone, which is an area where something's happened. We don't know whether it's alien or some sort of spillage of some sort or a nuclear thing, but this sort of big areas have been cordoned off, and our main character sneaks in there at night. It's just her and her sister, and her sister was sort of in the town as this sort of spill happened but escaped it, and she was out of town that night, so escaped as well, but their parents were there, so they haven't seen them again. So it's just the 2 sisters, and the elder sister rides her bike into town sneakily and takes photos of things that are happening in there, and the older sister goes in and takes these photographs of the town, which she sells, and she's had these sort of rules of things that she shouldn't do and stuff, and then there's sort of a bit of a conspiracy coming out, and she's asked to go and collect this particular thing from town, and there's some secrets going on with her sister. Now, whereas I quite enjoyed the artwork in this, I just felt like the story was a little bit too elusive and evasive in giving us any answers, and I've heard that the second volume isn't much better in terms of that. I just felt like there was too much mystery and not enough sort of story and explanation behind it, and I've ended, rather than feeling excited to learn more, I just started to feel a bit frustrated, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. So it was okay. I liked the artwork and the story read quick enough, but I think it's probably a 3 stars, and it's not one that I'm going to pick up the second volume to, even though I know it's out. Maybe if I saw it in the library and it was available there, then I would pick it up, but otherwise I think I'm going to call this one quits, but I give it 3 stars. Okay, so today I wanted to read this. I've been putting it off, and I think I'm sort of waiting for a day where I think, oh, I've got plenty of time to really get stuck into this, and then that day sort of never comes. So I'm biting the bullet today, and I'm going to take you along on the journey. This is a graphic novel experience called Building Stories by Chris Ware. So it comes in this big box. Let's open it and see what's inside. So this is what it looks like inside. Everything is wrapped in plastic. So let's unwrap it all and see how it all works. Okay, so there's way more in here than even I imagined. There is sheets upon sheets, boards, books. Yeah, I have no idea where to start with this. So I think I'm going to do what I like to do in these situations where it's sort of multiple things and there don't appear to be any instructions. I am going to check in a couple of the books at the front and see if there's any instructions in these. If there isn't, I'm going to take to the internet to find the best way to read this. Okay, I found somebody's blog where they suggested a particular order. Now, everywhere I read says that you don't have to read it in a particular order, and actually it's one of those things that people feel that if you read it in different orders, you would get something different from it and feel differently about the experiences of this one woman that it's about. So I'm going to read it in the order that I found on this particular blog, which is called joglikescomics.blogspot.com, and they suggested this particular order because I don't like to randomly pick things, so this is their recommended reading order, so I'm going to go for that, and I will come back to you with my thoughts on it. Okay, so I've read the first thing that I'm reading, which is this book, which is more of your sort of traditional style graphic novel. What I love about this is it starts off with the building talking, because this is all about this one building. It's actually got its own persona and character, so it's talking directly to us, and then we are learning about the different inhabitants in the in the building. So our main character, I think, who is going to be sort of the woman that goes through this, has just moved in. So it's the building talking about how you know, how it's been over the years, and then it's her moving in, and we learn about the landlady who lives on the ground floor, this old lady, and then the people that live in the middle floor, which is a couple. And they have sort of relationship problems, and then we learn about the person that's moving in, and we're sort of learning about each of them as we go through. I'm really loving it so far, so I can't wait to move on to the next bit. This was the perfect book actually to start with from the pile. I felt like this was a really good place because I felt like this was the start of the story. I might be wrong as we go on, it might go back in time, I don't know, but I really enjoyed starting with this, and I really loved this a lot. And actually, as a standalone, this would have been pretty good, so I've got high hopes for the rest of it, so I'm going to carry on and do a bit more reading now. Okay, so I've read quite a bit more now since I last spoke to you. There was quite a lot of sort of pamphlets and sort of larger pieces of artwork that fold out, and we sort of moved on in these to when the character that had moved into the building at the beginning has met someone and fallen in love and got married and had a child, and we're flitting back and forth in time to things that are going on, thoughts that are going on through her head. There's this definite underlying theme of depression and self-doubt and feeling not good enough, and that sort of runs all the way through so far, and I'm finding that very interesting. So I've now got maybe 5 or 6 pieces left to read, so I'll be interested to see where they where we sort of go on from there. But the sort of it's an experience looking at a whole life and all aspects of it, and those times where we feel happy and sad, and how our perspectives change over time, and our thought processes, all surrounding this one woman and her journey. And I'm finding it fascinating, really, and it really does keep your attention with these different sort of formats and different styles. I'm not 100% sure that it wouldn't be just as effective in a complete graphic novel as a book, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless, and I'm enjoying you know, picking up the different things and reading the story. I do feel like perhaps that I'm reading it in more of a sort of chronological fashion. I feel like I'm semi reading it like that, so I'm quite enjoying it like that actually. I quite like reading it like that. So we'll see. I'll come back to you at the end and let you know my final thoughts. Okay, so I finished it. I've put it all back in the box and I finished it. It's taken about 3 hours, 4 hours to get through all of it, and I really did end up enjoying it. I'm going to give this 4 stars. It didn't quite evoke the emotion. Well, it did bring me an emotional response. There was some depressing moments of it, and this sort of mundanity, I suppose, of life came through, and this woman's sort of journey and the ups and downs. But yeah, my favourite bits were the main book at the beginning, where the building actually has a voice, which I thought was really interesting, and I loved the way that you moved through the panels in this one. So if you're looking for something a bit different, I definitely recommend this one. It's different, it's interesting, it's a really great way to while away an afternoon, and great artwork, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've got another one of his books that I recently picked up, so hopefully I'll be talking about that soon too. But until the next graphic novel, I'm gonna go and do some other reading. Hiya, so since last speaking to you, me and Matilda have been working our way through the Babysitters Club graphic novels. This is the first one, and we're currently on the second one, and we've got the first 6, I think. This one's called Christie's Great Idea, and I remember reading the Babysitters Club when I was younger and really enjoying it, and I really wanted to read these graphic novel formatted ones anyway, especially as I knew that they were done by Raina Telgemeier, who I love her artwork, and so I decided to see if Matilda would like to read them with me, and we've been reading them and she's fallen in love with them as much as me. If you have never heard of the Babysitters Club, maybe it wasn't a formative part of your growing up like me, it's a group of 4 girls. They're friends, and they're at school together. I think they're about 12 or 13. They come from different backgrounds. We have a girl girl who is very artistic, a girl who comes from quite a big family where her parents are divorced and there's sort of a new stepfather coming onto the scene. We've got a young girl who lives just with her dad, and her dad is quite strict, and we have a girl that's just moved from New York and has diabetes, which I think is quite an interesting portrayal, especially from the time when this was set. Diabetes is much more common, unfortunately, in children now. And so it tackles all of these things alongside the fact that they've set up a babysitters club, which is a way of them sort of joining together so that they can get as many babysitting jobs as they can, and sort of pull their resources into sort of a bit of a business, really. And they come across all sorts of things, and there's growing up issues and there's things going on in their life, and that all runs alongside this sort of babysitting thing. I'm really enjoying these. I just think they're really great. They're really nostalgic for me, so I gave this one 4 stars. Okay, so it's been a little while since I last spoke to you, but since then me and Matilda have now read 2 more Babysitters Club books. This is book 2, which is The Truth About Stacey, which focuses on Stacey's diabetes, and then this one is book 3, which is Marianne Saves the Day, and when the Babysitters Club have a massive fallout, it's up to her to make some changes and help bring them back together. So they're just so lovely, and me and Matilda are really loving these. So they were both 4 stars. And then the other book that I have read is Glass Town by Isabel Greenberg. I really love Isabel Greenberg's artwork, and the books that I've read so far, The Encyclopedia of Early Earth and 100 Nights of Hero, I just thought were brilliant. And this is something that I was intrigued by because it is taking the juvenilia from the Brontes, and more specifically the Glass Town, which I think was more of 2 of theirs than the other 2, because I think there was a Gondel one as well. I haven't read the juvenilia, but it's their writing when they were young, and they had this made-up world called Glass Town. And what she's done so well with this is that she has told the story, this sort of Glass Town myth, magical made-up story that they've invented in their heads as sort of a game and a thing to do, and she's incorporated it into things that had happened in the Brontes' real life and what was going on at the time. And it's just really well done. It's got 3 different colour palettes. If we look at the present day, the colour palette she's used is these sort of blues and more muted tones, blues and sort of mustards. When we go into Glass Town, we have a more vibrant, bold, mixed colour palette. And then when we go into the past, we have this more pinky tone. So it really does help you to work out, you know, what part of the story you're in, where you are. Although I don't necessarily feel you need that, because Isabel Greenberg does such a great job of drawing this world and bringing you along for the ride. I loved it. It's made me definitely more interested in the juvenilia, and maybe something that I might pick up in the future. And yeah, I just thought it was really, really fun, really interesting. I loved the artwork. I watched a video afterwards because I was intrigued by her artwork and how she does it, and it looks like she draws it with sort of chalk and charcoal. I think it's charcoal pencils first, and then she scans it onto a computer and then colours it digitally, which I thought was really interesting. So I loved this. I'm going to put it on my shelf with the other 2 of her books, and I gave this 4 stars. So there's still probably a few more to squeeze in before the end of the month, so I'll come back to you when I've got more to tell you about. Okay, so I've got 3 more to talk to you about, and then I think I'm going to wrap up this video, because that's a lot of graphic novels. So the first 2 I'm going to talk to you about are the first 2 in a series. This is the 5 Worlds series. I had both of these I'd bought second hand. And I think had I only bought the first one, I wouldn't have carried on with this series. The first one I wasn't that keen on. I think I gave it 2 stars. I found it confusing. I didn't understand what was happening. The only thing it really had going for it was that I quite enjoyed sort of the artwork and the colour palette. And yeah, I came out of it feeling quite lost. I didn't really know the characters that well, didn't really know what was going on, but because I did have the second one, I ended up going on to read that one. That one really did sort of bring the story a bit closer together, but it wasn't enough for me to carry on with the series, and I gave it 3 stars. So let me tell you very briefly about this. Basically, we have 4 sort of places, I think, on this world, with 4 different sort of races of people, and our main character Una is a sand dancer, so she can sort of do these things with sand and make them do stuff, and they're trying to light these beacons. There's 4 beacons. There's like a mythological sort of god sort of past where there's been a battle between sort of good and evil, and good has sort of squashed evil to a certain extent, but not got rid of it, and so now it's sort of seeping back and trying to take over by using people who are weaker to sort of control them. It was very confusing to me, and I didn't love it, unfortunately. So I won't be carrying on with this, but yeah, if you like the sound of it, it might be something that other people get to grips with a lot quicker than me. It just wasn't for me. And then the last one I want to talk to you about is volume 2 of My Brother's Husband by Gengora Tagami. Gengora Tagami. The first one of these I really loved, and this one I really enjoyed too. I think this one I didn't love as much as the first one. I'm not sure why. I just felt like there was less in this one. In the first one we have a man come over, Mike comes over from Canada and introduces himself to our main character and his daughter, and explains that he was the twin brother of this man's husband, and the twin brother's husband in Canada. And it's about being gay, it's about Japan and a sort of cultural thing, and about sexuality over there and how it's handled, and about how that's quite different and it's sort of quite not talked about. And it's about Mike's relationship building with this family and this single dad, and it's a sweet story. I really enjoyed it. The first one I felt sort of tackled a lot of stuff that was like the main things that needed tackling, and this sort of just carried on the story a bit more gently, a bit more yeah, I mean, there was stuff in there. We were learning about sort of the main character standing up to other people, and introducing Mike as you know, his daughter's uncle, as his brother's husband or late husband, and that bit I think was tackled in here quite well. That was the main crux of this book, was to show how far he's come, how he wants to introduce him as his brother's husband, and he wants people to know their relationship and know this familial relationship they all have. So I thought that was really good. It was a lovely story. I really love both of these volumes, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So that is a lot of graphic novels that I've read this month. I'm really pleased I did this. I've been really enjoying tackling some of those graphic novels that have been on my shelf for quite a while. No 5 stars I don't think, which is a shame, but some really good ones, some different ones, and so I'm really pleased I did this little project. So let me know, can you recommend any 5-star graphic novels that you've read recently? I really need to get myself some more. I particularly like sort of biographies. I love Lucy Knisley's work. What else have I really enjoyed? Lucy Knisley I really love. I really loved a book called Brazen, which was about women, and I love Heartstopper. Yeah, I tend to veer towards, I love sort of Raina Telgemeier's work. So yeah, if you can recommend any graphic novels you think I might like that could potentially be sort of 5-star reads, let me know in the comments down below, because now I need to stock up my shelves again. Anyway, that's it from me, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.